What was the weirdest black market in your school? Our elementary school utilized ice cream tickets. You got one if it was your birthday or if you did something that a teacher decided was exemplary. People would pass them around asking for favors down the line. Some kid found the paper used to make the tickets and Xeroxed multiple pages of the tickets. He became our kingpin and ruled for a couple years. Spicy sweet chili Doritos. This one kid would buy every single bag out of the vending machines and sell them for like double the cost. Edit. Who the fuck gave this a hugs reward? Y'all are wild. In early elementary school we had a market for mud. Different groups of kids would claim areas around the school as their mud pit and put their brand of mud in Ziploc bags to be traded with other groups for different bags of mud. We were the clay mud group and I had about 3 kids in the muck scooping it into bags or running to the water fountain to get fresh water to make more mud on dry days. I would be the one to go make the deals with the other groups. We traded a lot with the gravel mud group because clay mud and cement mud are both good for building or some shit. Who knows? It made so much sense at the time. The principal and staff eventually stepped in to end it because all the kids came back to class filthy every day and giant holes littered every field and playground. This one girl forged apology letters if you brought her something one of your parents wrote. I never used her services myself, but we were, and still are, good friends, and I gotta say, she's talented as hell. I literally can't tell which one is mine after she copied something I wrote. Including signature. It's baffling. This happened in Los Angeles in the mid-80s. Student bus passes had to be purchased by the 5th day of the month or you were stuck having to pay daily. The date had passed so I found a guy in my high school willing to trade another student's pass which he had stolen. I traded a tangerine and half a pack of cigarettes for a copy of Penthouse. Then I traded that issue with a pizza from the cafeteria for the bus pass. This wasn't a weird one but a genius one for a tween. A girl set up a little business out of a box of stationery, writing forged letters from parents. She had all different paper, pens and pencils of every kind, and could write in convincingly accurate tone for the content of the notes depending on which kid they were for. She used different styles of handwriting and different styles of punctuation and language too. She'd even fudge the spelling if she thought the kid's parents weren't great at it. She grew up to be incredibly educated. I look back and see that as her first moment of evil genius. It definitely suggested she would go on to brilliance one day and she did. I organized the black market. My school banned Pokémon cards, so I made a new game with paper cards. I was drawing pretty well, so I folded in paper in 9, it made pieces approximately the size of a Pokémon Vard, and created a whole new game out of this. Sold boosters for 10 cents. Spend all my afternoons drawing cards for the school. Teachers eventually heard of it and couldn't ban it because it was still officially me distributing drawings. And then I started to do replicas of Pokémon cards. Like people had to show me the proof after school that they owned the card. I made a replica, and then the whole Pokémon card trading continued with paper replicas. Then after school people made the real exchanges based on what replicas they exchanged during school. Noodle seasoning packets. One of my friends sold Starburst from his locker. 10 cents for 2. If he liked you, you got 2 from the normal bag. If he didn't like you, you got 2 from the bag that only had yellows. Salt. My school canteen doesn't have any salt with chips, or fries to Americans, and people used to sell salt packets. The most expensive offer I could find was 50 pence for a packet or £1 for 3. Not really a black market but there was a porn tape, VHS days, that used to do the rounds. There was a booking system and everything. You couldn't have it for more than 2 days. Not really black market but kinda. It was in the 90s and most people had a computer but internet was still very slow when you had it. I was a teen and had managed to put my hand on a CD-ROM with 3 porn videos on it. The kind of CD-ROM that was offered with the magazine you could find on the highest shelf of the newspaper stand. I was starting to know all 3 videos by heart so I decided to lend it to a friend and then I kinda forgot about it. A few days later I noticed during the class that another unrelated person was lending my video to yet another guy. My CR-ROM was having a life of its own, moving from hand to hand, providing happiness along its way. I was very proud. I think I was 16 when this happened but basically a bunch of guys begging printing paper that looked like contracts with the top saying, soul contract. They'd come up to some of the younger students and get them to sign the document to sell their soul for eternity. And would pay then $2–3, converting to USD. We had a good laugh when some of the students became worried they actually sold their soul. My school banned soft drink and fast food such as chips, pies, burgers, etc. The very next day I was selling hot chips and cold Pepsi out of my locker. Purchased my first car from the proceeds of that operation. Good times. It wasn't weird, but I sold protection when kids wanted to ditch. When the school announced openings in the attendance office, I had a half dozen of my friends rush over and sign up immediately. By the end of the day, we owned it. I charged $10 $20 to ignore each truancy. Each morning, if we had clients, I'd hand a list and half of the cash to whomever was working that day. Word got around fast, but we were never caught. I had a friend that used to bring a bunch of Coke cans from home and then sell them for $1 at lunch. Cheaper than the vending machine prices, and so it became like a little business. He eventually saved up enough for a longboard. The kids in my class paid me for water bottle caps. Some girl was in a MLM, and was trying to sell us perfumes. Harry Potter books. I went to a religious school where books that had magic or fantasy was banned. Parents of these kids were just as religious, so kids couldn't get them from their parents. Mom didn't care and she let me buy a few for some friends, and then more kids started requesting them. Charged double for what they were worth, and the kids were more than happy to pay. Most popular requests were Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings and Cirque du Freak series. Edit. Also made money making customized covers for the books so it looked like they were reading something else. Edit. I should probably mention that this was a Muslim school. Fake ids. What gets a bad reputation, but isn't actually bad? Opossums. Control those ticks, babies. Lawyers. Everybody hates them till they need one. Saying no. Like, why is it so bad to say no? You are just saying that you don't want to do something or that you don't agree with something. People get so scared to say no that they do things that they don't want to do or agree with things that they don't actually agree with. I honestly think that it is really stupid that people put saying no in a bad light. Spiders. I hate them. You hate them. But they eat the pests in my garden and orchard. MSG. Conflicting opinions from your own. The internet has led to millions of people living in delusional hive mind bubbles. Any idea they are presented that isn't their own sends them into a frenzy. The issue here is this is bad. Your ideas should be challenged, should be considered, should be re-evaluated. The absolute worst thing is to only be told you are right over and over. People make any basic idea the backbone of their entire identity, and that's problematic. You shouldn't be trying to prove yourself right all the time. You should ask if you are wrong. You should listen to other opinions. You should consider God forbid that you could be incorrect. This is how we grow. Yet nowadays, people fight violently against this notion. Nuclear power. Being single. Prunes. Whenever I eat them around other people I'll get poop jokes. I'm like, have you ever eaten them? They're awesome. Everyone thinks that sharks are more dangerous than they are. Shark attacks are actually very rare and only happen when a shark thinks a human is food. Or there's some kind of weird change in the climate or food supply or something. Crying. Brussels sprouts. I don't believe they should ever touch water in the cooking process unless you love them. Most people hate them because they've only ever had them boiled. Spiders. They'll leave you alone for the most part. It's the ants, wasps, ticks, roaches, centipedes, gnats, mosquitoes that deserve the bad pest reputations. Go to the psychologist. I think that is something that most people needs today. However, when you said that you have gone to the psychologist you are seen as a crazy person. Failing at something. Being childfree. It is not selfish to decide that you aren't cut out to raise a whole new person. 4-cylinder cars. They get great mileage, and if the engine is properly designed and/or has turbo they perform excellent against larger engines. Feminism. There's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding when it comes to the concept of actual authentic feminism, but it has nothing to do with hating men. Joan Jett. Your mom. Let me explain. If my mom kisses me in front of my friends, they would just make fun of me. Honestly, what's so wrong about being loved by my own mom? Pleading face.